Let's start the show. One of the most exciting and famous chess game in chess history is the game between Stepan Levitsky playing with white pieces and legendary Frank Marshall playing with black pieces. Let's come back to 1912 and let's remember Frank Marshall as one of the most famous chess American player of the last century. I believe that you are going to enjoy this game and this video. My name is Petr Koutný and let's start. On the board we have French defense, and after a few more moves we have chance to speak about d5 isolated pawn. It has to be exciting situation when at that time this player maybe doesn't know the power or disadvantage of this pawn. Maybe 40, 50, 60 years later, everybody know that isolated pawn used to be strong in the middle game, but should be a weakness in the end game. But just imagine that two players at 1912 are playing each other, and now they have on the board isolated d5 pawn, and one believe that this pawn is a terrible weakness, and the second believe that this pawn is a huge advantage. And that's exactly exciting time of this game. So let's go on. Frank Marshall played move bishop e6. He is going to support his important pawn on d5, and Stepan Levitsky played knight d4. Okay, why not? So black eat the pawn on c5, and now Stepan Levitsky decided to go for this exchange. I am not sure if this exchange has any chance to give white any hopes for advantage. Just imagine that knight on d4 is one of the strongest white piece on the board, and now white is going to exchange his best, maybe for the worst, black's piece. So happened, and after this exchange something happened. F-file is open, and rook on f8 is going to be more and more active. So, okay, bishop g4. Stepan Levitsky believed that this is a strong move because he's going to attack weakness on e6, but Frank Marshall played queen d6, absolutely good move, where he's going to support, say defend pawn on e6, and after bishop h3 played simple and strong rook e8. Let's compare activity of black pieces and the placement of white pieces. Mainly I am speaking about rooks and queen. The difference is the difference between advantage and disadvantage, because I believe that black is absolutely fine. Maybe he is hoping for advantage. So, okay, what's happened next? Stepan Levitsky played queen d2 and bishop b4. That's a threat. d4, and this pin is unpleasant to white's queen. So, what's next? White's move? White decided for exchange on f6, and let's watch this rook. This rook is going to be more and more active, more and more aggressive, and is doing good job there. Maybe one day has chance to attack pawn on f2, or another day has a chance to attack white's king. So why not to be happy? So what's happened next? Now rook d1, and black played queen c5. Is going to still attack knight on c3, and maybe black is hoping for a move d4. That's a threat, and white has to be careful. Yes, he is played queen e2 with another threat, because there is a threat, maybe attack pawn on e6, but mostly more dangerous move is rook d5. Frank Marshall is a great player, So he saw variation and he thought that he's absolutely okay after exchange on c3 and rook d5. That's exactly happened. It's a mistake to take this rook because at the end black's rook is hanging. So knight d4. What a wonderful knight in the center. That's a monster. That's a sign for black's next attack. And maybe the best answer here is a queen e4. But Levitsky played a losing move queen h5. But this move looks absolutely okay. It's active with a threat. And what's wrong with this move? You know, maybe everything, because this game is immortal and Frank Marshall played a rook f8. Now, rook on d5 is hanging and white is losing time. You know, just imagine that black believe in attack and time is important factor, and now white is losing time because of this rook. So rook e5 and maybe rook f2, it's not a winning in a spot. Of course, just to take on f2, black is winning in next 2 or 3 moves, but white should play move rook e1 and with a strong counter-attack against pawn on e6, maybe white is still surviving. But Frank Marshall found it a brilliant way how to win this game. So let's enjoy rook h6 and white is lost. Anywhere he is losing in all variations. So maybe queen d1 doesn't help at all because here is a rook h3 and that's move where white is losing piece. Why? Because here is a check and rook on e5 is hanging. So for this reason Levitsky played move queen g5, but Frank Marshall sacrificed exchange on h3 with the same idea. Not good to take this rook because check on f3, fork for everything, and of course in this case black is winning. Amazing job of great knight on a d4. So what's happened next? White played rook c5 and right now Frank Marshall is going to play immortal move queen g3. 2 black's pieces are hanging, rook and queen, and still right now white resigned. Say why? Let's check these variations. The first fg3 check and of course checkmate. That's so simple, but okay. What about h-g3? That's a checkmate in 1. Okay, so what about queen g3? Sounds good? Now believe me, even here black is winning. At least a piece. Check. Check. It's a mistake to take this knight because there's a checkmate. So maybe knight e2 and with extra piece black is winning. And the last variation is move maybe queen e5. There is a check and checkmate. And that's the reason why Stepan Levitsky resigned. I hope you enjoyed this game, and if yes, just feel free and press like or press follow and made my day. See you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.